One of the main topics that people were concerned about was one of your top commits, Carter Nelson, was seen at Notre Dame for the USC game there. What's your update there, and should Nebraska fans be concerned regarding Carter Nelson's commitment to the Huskers?
Well, what's interesting is Matt Rule spent the entire night before in Ainsworth at the school and at the game watching Carter Nelson play. So, that it was, then he got on a plane and drove out there. So Nebraska knew about what was going on. Notre Dame had been pushing extremely hard. I mean, they're just not taking no for an answer. And, they convinced him to get out there. When somebody from their community went with them that was a huge Notre Dame fan that wanted to go to the game. They went, they came back, and his family immediately said, "Hey, we're still committed to Nebraska. Nothing's changed. We'll be in Lincoln for the Northwestern game on Saturday." So no, I don't. Sure, there's always something to worry about in recruiting, but I think things are solid with Carter Nelson right now, even after the trip to Notre Dame.
Okay, that's something to watch. It's a pretty big story to watch, but it seems under control for Nebraska. Also happening was Nebraska just offered, I'm going to say Demond Demas, who's a receiver at Garden City Community College in Kansas. This is a former 5-star, former high school 5-star, who got into some legal trouble. What's the situation here, Sean? This is a 6'2", 200-pounder. This is the kind of receiver you need.
Yeah, he was dismissed at A&M over a year ago.
Okay. And
now he's at Garden City Community College. He's a 2-to-play-2 guy. Started his college football career in the 2020 season. Was a 5-star, ranked ahead of guys like Jackson Smith-Ajigba back then. So he's a very talented player. Had an assault charge in some situations at A&M where he was dismissed at A&M. We actually met him last summer, Sip, at the satellite camp in Houston. That night we were out there. He was there, just hanging out, watching, and he had crossed paths with the Nebraska staff there for the first time. His legal situation is in a probationary period right now, and when that's completed, that will all be behind him at that point. And Nebraska offered him this week, and it was his first offer he's received since getting to Garden City Community College. But this is the kind of guy that could come in and help them right away. I mean, and you look at he knows the situation in Nebraska. He's like, I understand they basically lose all their top guys next year. So there's an opportunity there. And he was just very grateful for Nebraska to give him this opportunity because of what he's been through. And Matt Rule has probably vetted this situation hard before they actually came in with that offer.
You talked to Tom Minnick yesterday, a guy we know, the Garden City Community College head coach. What did Minnick tell you about Demas as a player?
Well, Brian Munson did actually. Munson talked to him last night or earlier in the day yesterday, but he's raved about him. Just said he's come a long way, and that situation was a tough deal he went through. It's all behind him, and it's one of those things. There's a lot of sides of the story. It never got taken to court. And you can Google it and basically decide whatever way you want to think the situation went. But he sees what he sees at Garden City and thinks the kid deserves an opportunity, and he's glad that Nebraska at least has jumped forward with that. And Minnick was the coach at Arizona Western way back when, so he's coached a lot of guys with ties that have played in Nebraska, so he's familiar with the program up here too.
Talking about Husker line, Sean Callahan. Sean, regarding Nebraska's current team, they got 6 games left. Again, they didn't play last weekend, but we saw Wisconsin, the favorite in the division, lose to Iowa at home 15-6. We saw Illinois, who Nebraska just beat 20-7, go on the road and beat Maryland. We've already talked about the schedule not being overly tough, but did your thoughts on the schedule even get more favorable after this weekend, Sean?
Yeah, there's just a lot of quarterback issues in the conference, and in the division alone, I think 5 of the 7 teams are playing backups now at quarterback, if you count Harburg in that discussion. I believe Purdue is one of the few that still has their starting quarterback intact to start the year in the division right now. So it is unique in that sense. Minnesota obviously still has their guy too, but it's wide open. It's defense, it's punting, it's special teams, it's field position. That's how you win in this division. There isn't a lot of elite wide receiver play. There isn't Braylon Allen would be considered an elite running back, but he's nicked up. It's all about how you play, and I think Matt Rule and his team have tried to embrace that style. Now they're going to have to play to win down the stretch. But there's a real opportunity. But as Matt Rule and others have said, we can win all these games, we can lose all these games. I mean, it all comes down to how you prepare each week and get ready for them.
Regarding this upcoming game against Northwestern, Sean, Nebraska, 11-point favorite as of this morning. What kind of game are you expecting? Is you see an ugly game? Run the football type. What do you expect to see on Saturday?
Yeah, it's hard to see any of these games down the stretch getting in the 30s. I mean, I think you're going to get a game in the 20s again. And, if Nebraska can execute and get to field position and get pressure. I mean, Northwestern has given up a ton of quarterback pressures. I think getting pressure on them and creating some turnovers, that will be big. And, that they haven't played they played at Minnesota, but they haven't played in a tough road atmosphere yet. I mean, I believe Penn State game was in Evanston. So get them on the road and utilize the home atmosphere. I think that will be an X factor for Nebraska too.
Sean, you had a great point the other day you made about Bryant Ferentz and this threshold that he has in his contract, which is Iowa has to average 25 points, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You had this. You noted this. It's fascinating, guys. This is fascinating. There's only one team in the Big Ten West that's averaging 25 points. All the offensive coordinators would be fired under Iowa's parameters.
It's amazing.
Yeah, only Wisconsin's offensive coordinator Phil Longo would survive under those terms, and they're not great. Every offensive coordinator would be fired under those parameters.
Yeah, that's why it's silly to put a metric like that on anything in a contract because there's so many things that are uncontrollable.
Sean, always good stuff. Thanks for the time. We'll chat with you again next week.
Thanks, guys.
Husker Online's Sean Callahan.